Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. If you're new, a huge welcome to you. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so happy that I was finally able to sit down and do a tutorial for you. I've been very busy lately. I'm actually trying to organize my studio a little bit, declutter my workspace. It got really out of hand, and I'm not really messy when I'm doing work, but I did have a whole bunch of tripods on my workspace that were taking up a lot of space, so I had to make some changes. And I want to show you what I did, but I'm going to show you in the next video. Hopefully I'll have it published in the next few days, so I want you to come back and check my channel for that. It's been a while since I've shown you my studio, and so I want to give you a little update. But anyway guys, I'm so glad you're here today because we're going to be making that gorgeous necklace duo that you saw in the introduction, and I'm going to be using the beads that came in Didi's Deluxe Bead box for the month of June. Now, if you're not familiar with that box, I'll leave some information down below, along with a coupon code and a link to the website in case you're interested. And as always, I'll leave a list of all the materials I'm going to be using today down in the description section of this video. If you'll scroll down, you'll see it. I'm also going to leave some timestamps in case you want to skip forward to any portion of the video, and a list of the tools that I'm going to be using as well. Oh my gosh, there's so much information down there. I'm not sure if any of you look at it, but there is a lot of information down there. And some people have mentioned to me that they have trouble finding it. It's because you have to scroll down and look for the word more or show more or something like that. And if you click on that, it expands the section below. And then I think you have to click more again to expand it further. It's really inconvenient. I don't know why YouTube doesn't fix that. But anyway, guys, before we get started, I want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please think about doing so, because not only will you get some great content, but you'll also help my channel. It helps the algorithms, and it also helps me to stay motivated to create more videos for you. And don't forget that I always model my necklaces at the end of the video, so stick around for that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And here we have Didi's Deluxe Bead box for the month of June. The name of this box is Enchanting Dance of Cherry Blossoms. I did an unboxing video not too long ago. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below. And just like all the other boxes, this box didn't disappoint at all. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was filled with rich tones of pinks and greens, and some exquisite gemstones as well. Let me pull out the items we're going to be using, and I'll go over them with you. Here are the items from the box. We have this gorgeous strand of check beads. It's called the Inspired by Checks Designer Strand, and I'm going to be using quite a few of those beads. We also have these gorgeous Rhodonite gemstone beads. They're called Freeform Rondelles, and it's actually black lace rhodonite. And here we have some faceted crystal rondelles in the color ochre yellow, and they're matte as you can see. They measure 4 millimeters in size. We also have some 6 millimeter size jade beads in the color Peridot green, and these are also matte. And here we have some gorgeous check flower cups. They measure 10 millimeters across, and the color is silk cherry pink. And we also have some metal bead caps. So like I said, all of these are from the box, but I'm also going to use some items from my stash. So let me go get them. I'm going to be using some seed beads, and these are size 11/0, and they're in an antique silver color. I also have some beading wire, and this is 49 strand beading wire. It's 0.015 of an inch thick, or 0.38 millimeters, and the color is silver. And here I have some crimp tubes. They're size number 2. That's one of the things I love about Beadalon. They always tell you what size crimp tube to use based on the thickness of the beading wire. And it's on the back. As you can see, there's a little chart there. So if you ever have trouble figuring out what size crimp tube to use, I recommend you use Beadalon beading wire and crimp tubes. And here I have a few more items. I have some clamshell covers. We're going to use those to hide the crimp tubes. I have some lobster clasps, jump rings. These are 6 millimeters in size. I have one ball head pin. We're going to use that on the pendant. And I have some 22 gauge wire, and it's in a silver color as you can see. But we're only going to be using a very small piece. And I think that's about it. So now that we've gone over the materials, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be making 2 necklaces today, one short one and one longer one. And I'm going to start by building the pendant. And these are the items we're going to be using. These beads came from the Inspired by Checks Designer Strand. And I have a ball head pin, and I have a piece of wire. It's 22 gauge, and it's relatively long because I'm going to be making some wrap loops. I think it's about 4 inches long. You could probably get away with less. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to slide this bead onto my ball head pin like this. And now I'm going to grab the pin with my round nose pliers right by the bead, kink it, switch to this part of the pin, take the tail, wrap it around the nose of my pliers, flip my pliers around, continue to wrap that tail to the back, just like that. And now using these pliers, I'm going to grab the loop. These are actually crimping pliers, but I like to use them because they have very skinny tips and they grab really well. And now using some tweezer nose pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. I think I'll do 3, but you can do as many wraps as you want to. So now I need to cut off the excess. I'm going to use my flush cutters. And if you see a little sharp end sticking out, you should always tuck it in. Let me straighten out this loop a little bit. So that's the bottom part of the pendant. And now let me work on the top part. I'm going to grab this piece of wire about 1.25 inches down, kink it, switch to this part of the wire, take the tail and wrap it around the nose of my pliers, flip my pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, and once again I'm going to grab the loop with my skinny pliers, grab the tail and do my wraps. And I'm only going to do 2. But again, you can do as many as you want to. So now let me cut off the excess. And I'm going to tuck in that little sharp end. And now I'm going to thread on one of these flower beads. And this oval bead. And the other flower bead, like that. And now I'm going to grab the wire right by the bead, kink it, switch to this part, take the tail, wrap it around the nose of the pliers, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, and I'm not going to close it because I need to attach this one. So let me open up this loop a little bit, slide this bead on, like that. And now let me grab that loop with the skinny pliers, grab the tail and do my wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little sharp end, and I do want to line up my loops, make sure they're facing the same direction. So there's my pendant. And I think it looks really, really cute. So now we're going to move on to the necklace itself. Let me get the beads for that. Here are the beads for the necklace. I have these beautiful Rhodonite beads, the 6mm Jade beads, and the 4mm Faceted Rondelles. I also have some bead caps here. The bead caps that came in the box had 2 sizes, these larger ones and the smaller ones. I'm going to use the larger ones on the Rhodonite beads, and I'm going to use the smaller ones on the 6mm size beads. But I'm not going to put one on each bead. I'm just going to have a bead cap at the end of the bead segment. I also have 2 size 8/0 seed beads, and I'll show you how I'm going to use them later on. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll know that I use a bead arranging tool called the Magic Rod, and here they are. I carry these in my Etsy store, and they come in 2 sizes, 9 inches and 12 inches. These are the 12-inch rods. I like to arrange bead patterns on these. But the nice thing about these rods is that you can load seed beads, bead caps, large beads, small beads, and you can have them all up against each other. And then I use these stoppers at the end to bring the beads in close so I can get accurate measurements. Obviously, you can use a beading board. You don't have to use these rods, or simply lay out your beads on your beading mat. So let me show you what we're going to do. I'm going to remove this stopper. I'm going to load one side of the necklace, and then I'll get the other rod and load the other side. So let me start with the bottom of the necklace. I'm going to start with one of these bead caps, and then 6 of these Rhodonite beads. And And I've already played around with this design, guys, so I know what I'm doing, in case you're wondering. That's 5. Let me load one more. That's 6. And now another one of these bead caps. So that's going to be right up against the pendant. And now I'm going to load one of these smaller bead caps and some of these green ones. And I haven't decided how many just yet. Right now I have a total of 8, but I think I'm going to load another 2 for a total of 10. And then another bead cap. So this is what we have so far. And by the way, whenever I'm working with beads that are heavy like these rhodonite beads, I put 2 stoppers at this end. So if you have the rods, make sure you use fresh stoppers or use 2 at the ends so you don't lose your beads. And I'm saying this because the stoppers do wear out with time and they get loose. So now I'm going to load one of these size 8 seed beads. And now I'm going to load some of these 4mm faceted rondelles. And I'm just going to keep loading them until I get the length that I want. I think I want my necklace to be 20 inches, so this side will be 10 inches long. So let me keep loading them. As you can see, I've loaded quite a few of the yellow rondelles, but before I go any further, let me measure it. I have my stoppers on so I don't lose my beads, as you can see. Let's take a look. I'm at about 9 inches. Now you have to take into account the jump rings, the clamshell covers, and the lobster clasp. That's going to add about 1 inch. So let me add a few more yellow ones for a total of 9.5 inches. I think I'll add 4. Let me place my stopper back on. And I wanted to explain why I used that size 8 OC bead right there. The reason I used it is because I felt I needed a little bit more silver metal there. And I know it's a glass bead, but it gives the illusion of metal. So I'm pretty happy with this sequence of beads. I'm going to go ahead and load another one just like that for the other side of the necklace. Let me do that off camera and I'll be right back. As you can see, I've loaded both rods. One of the nice things about the rods is that you don't have to count beads. You can simply just hold one rod up against the other one to make sure that your bead segments are the same length. One thing I did want to point out, since these rhodonite beads are irregular, you want to make sure that both of these segments are exactly the same length. So you may have to shuffle your beads around because some of them are thicker than others. So now I'm going to load these beads on beading wire, and I've cut myself a 24-inch piece. I like to give myself a little extra. If you're doing the traditional crimping method, where you crimp the bead and fold it over, you definitely need 24 inches because you need 2 inches at each end to do the crimping. Now I'm not going to do that method. I'm simply going to squash my crimp bead or crimp tube, and then I'm going to hide it inside a clamshell cover. I find that method to be very secure and very easy to do. There are times when I haven't been able to use clamshell covers. It depends on the design. Sometimes I do have to do the traditional crimping method and use crimp bead covers, but if I can avoid that, I do. Let me place a clip at this end. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. So let me go ahead and load these beads. To offload from the rod, you hold onto the rod and then slide the stopper off carefully. And now I'm going to grab several at a time and load them onto my beading wire. Just like that. Since the rods hold the beads in perfect alignment, you can offload in multiples. So let me keep going. As you can see, I've loaded one side of the necklace. So now before I load this next one, I'm going to slide on the pendant. Here's my pendant. I'm simply going to load it onto the beading wire. Just like that. And now I'm going to continue loading these beads. So once again, I'm going to hold on to the rod like this, slide off the stoppers, and now I'm going to load these beads. So let me load the rest of these beads, and I'll see you in a few moments. As you can see, I've loaded all the beads, so now we just have to crimp off the ends. But before I crimp them off, I'm going to take this to the mirror and hold it up to my chest and see if I need to remove any beads or add some beads. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Well, I'm back and I did end up removing some yellow beads. Sometimes you don't know until you actually hold it up to your chest. And the reason I wanted to shorten this one is because of the long pendant. You may have a favorite length, but if your pendant is really long, then you have to make some adjustments. So anyway, now I'm going to go ahead and crimp the ends. I have a couple of crimp tubes here. And here are my clamshell covers. There's actually 2 there. And my cat just decided to jump on my lap. So this is going to be a challenge for me. He's been doing a lot of that lately. He's very, very clingy. I'm pretty sure it's because he's 16 years old. Some cats get really clingy when they reach that age. Plus my cat has kidney disease, so he's not in the best of health. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to slide on a clamshell cover. And I'm going in from the bottom. Just like that. And now a crimp tube. And now using my chain nose pliers, I'm going to grab that crimp tube and squash it. You don't want to squash it too much because you don't want that crimp tube to crack. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy. And now I'm going to test it to make sure that it's on there really good. And it definitely is. So now I'm going to go ahead and snip off the excess beading wire. And now I'm going to close my clamshell cover. You want to do it carefully because you don't want that metal to dent. You do want to make sure those loops are up against each other. And that's all there is to it. I like to use the clamshell covers with 2 loops because I think they're a little bit more secure than the ones with 1 loop. There's less of a chance that they'll slide through the opening of a jump ring. So now I'm going to slide my beads down. You want to make sure there are no spaces, but you do want your necklace to be fluid. You don't want it to be really stiff or tight. I like to curl it up on my mat like this to make sure that it's nice and fluid. Now before I load this clamshell, I'm actually going to open it up. This side is a little bit more difficult because you have to reach in there. Let me slide it onto my beading wire. And now the crimp tube. So there it is, as you can see. I'm going to grab it with my chain nose pliers. And I'm going to gently tug on that beading wire before I squash that crimp tube. Let me test it. It's pretty secure. And now I'll cut off the excess beading wire and close my clamshell cover. So now that the ends are crimped off, we're going to attach the clasp. Here are 2 jump rings and a lobster clasp. Let me open up one of these jump rings. Attach my clasp. Attach it to one end of the necklace. Close up my jump ring. It's critical that you close your jump rings really well whenever you use clamshell covers, because like I said before, you don't want the loops of the clamshell cover to slide through the gaps of a jump ring. Let me open up this jump ring now. Attach it to this end. And close it up. Another thing that helps is if you use jump rings that are really thick. And I believe these are 19 gauge. As you can see, it's a very professional finish. And there's the finished necklace. I think it looks lovely. I think the yellow, the green, and the pink is a beautiful combination. So now we're going to move on to the second necklace. Let me get the beads for that. Here are the beads for the second necklace. Like I said before, it's going to be a shorter one. This one's probably going to be around 16 inches, maybe 17. I have the yellow faceted rondelles. I have the 6mm jade rounds. I have the check flower cups, some more of the rhodonite beads. And these 2 are from the designer strand, and so are these. I have some bead caps, and I have the size 11 seed beads. So let me just show you what I had in mind. I'm going to start with one of these yellow rondelles, and then a bead cap, and then a green bead, and another bead cap, and another yellow rondelle, just like that. And now I'm going to load some seed beads, and I'm going to load about 10mm worth, or just a little bit under ½ an inch, which I think is about 7 seed beads. And what that does is that it spaces out my colored bead combinations. So let me show you the next one. Each one's going to have a yellow bead at each end, and bead caps. And now I think I'm going to load one of these rhodonite beads. And now another bead cap. And another yellow bead. And 7 of these seed beads. So there's my second segment. I think that looks really cute. Let me show you another one. I'm loading a yellow one, another bead cap, and this time I'm going to use these flower cup beads. But I'm going to have one facing this way, like this, and I'm going to have the other one facing the opposite way, like this. So they sit up against each other. And now another bead cap, a yellow bead, and 7 seed beads. So that's what we have so far. And I love having all these different colors. I think it's really adorable. And that's basically how I'm going to do the entire necklace. I'm just going to keep creating these little beaded segments, and I'm going to space them out with seed beads. So let me do the rest off camera, and I'll be right back. Here's the finished necklace. Since you already saw the process of offloading the beads from the rods to the beading wire, I thought I would just go ahead and do that. I didn't think it was necessary to show you again. But as you can see, I created a total of 16 beaded segments. And even though it looks random, I actually did follow a sequence. So I started with a green one, and then I followed it with 2 different kinds of beaded segments. In this case, I have a rhodonite and then a flower bead. And then the following segment is a green bead. And once again, 2 different kinds, the flower cups, and these are the grayish flower beads. And like I showed you before, I placed them facing opposite directions. And then the next one is a green one, and then a rhodonite and a flower bead, and then another green one, and so on. So basically the green ones are spaced out pretty evenly, and I have 2 of these different beaded segments after each green one. I hope that makes sense. You might want to take a screenshot. Of course, you may have to make some adjustments because this one measures about 17 inches. But anyway, guys, I'm very happy with how it turned out. Let me get the other necklace and I'll arrange both of them on my mat. Here are both necklaces, and I know you can't see the whole thing, but I'm going to pan my camera down and up in a few moments so you can see the whole thing. But anyway, guys, I love these colors. I think they're so gorgeous. I give all the credit to the folks at Didi's Deluxe Bead Box, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be able to create such beautiful pieces. Let me pan the camera down. There's the bottom. Let me go up now. There's the top. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, I'd like to go ahead and put these on and show you what they look like. I'm going to put each one on individually, and then I'll put both of them on at the same time. So let me do that, and I'll see you in a few moments. Well, I decided to wear the small necklace because I think it's really cute. I really love it. I love the colors, but I could definitely wear the other one as well. I could wear both of them together. I love that look. I'm curious to hear your opinion. Would you wear one? Would you wear the other? Or would you wear both? If you have time, if you could leave some comments down below, I'd really appreciate it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.